Hello and welcome. I'm Barkha Dutt here with the Mojo Story. We are doing a deep dive into the biggest issues of our time. And one of the questions before us is, how do you lock away somebody under the National Security Act, no less, for a Facebook post? Let's bring you the story and the person we're going to be talking to today. We're talking about the Manipur activist who was arrested under the NSA, charged with sedition, all in the context of a death that took place in his state of a BJP leader. In fact, it was in response to an FIR by another BJP leader that Erencro Leichombam was detained for a Facebook post. Now, you would think, God knows what was in this Facebook post. Maybe he was being abusive, maybe he was being anti-national, but all that Erencro was doing was to make the point that cow dung and cow urine are not cures for COVID-19. In other words, he was calling out what he believed to be the unscientific propaganda by some BJP leaders. For this, he was locked away, and he's not the only one. There have been 13 reported sedition cases for COVID coverage alone in the state of Manipur. It was Justice Chandrachud who ordered the immediate release and said that his continued detention was a violation of Erencro's right to life and liberty. We're now joined by Erencro, who's out of jail, should never have been in the first place. Hi, Erencro, and we're glad to see you out, but it should not have taken the Supreme Court for this to happen. You should never have been arrested. How do you see what happened to you? And, you're an activist, you're clearly anti-BJP, but you have a right to be that. You have a right to be that as long as it's within the framework of the law.
Definitely, I wouldn't say I am always against the current BJP government in Manipur. Sometimes I have even complimented and praised them for the positive things that they have tried to do here in Manipur. But it seems that whatever that I have written over the years since 2018 is not something that the current Chief Minister, Shri Biren Singh, is not really happy with. So, something as simple as, giving information about coronavirus could be very explosive in that kind of environment.
Yeah. And, so I think you make the important point that you've not consistently been against the BJP. But my argument would be that even if you were consistently against the BJP, that is your right. You're allowed to like politicians, hate politicians, all of it. When you were arrested, what went through your mind? I know that, your family wanted you to take down the Facebook post. There was a lot of fear. Can you talk a little bit about that feeling?
Well, when I first started, doing my activism, I was prepared for a very difficult sort of like, I was ready for some sort of persecution from the authorities. I was okay with it. But then when something like this happens, and my parents, especially my mother, she is literally, not very educated. She is a very simple woman, and the trauma, the emotional and the mental, difficulties that she had to go through. When I think about that, I feel very sad, and when I think about that, I feel that sometimes I question the choices that I make.
Because you watched your mother suffer.
Yes, I cannot watch her, suffer like that. And so,
does that mean the next time, because that's actually what happens with these cases, that the next time you want to say something on Facebook, you'll probably think 10 times, you'll probably censor your thoughts, because maybe somewhere you'll say it's not worth going to jail for, it's not worth upsetting my family for.
Absolutely. I mean, not just 10 times, but, I don't know, 100 times, whenever you want to fully express yourself and whenever you want to write. So definitely those hesitations are there. And that is, I think, not a good thing, because if someone like me, who fairly understands his rights under the Constitution, is hesitant to fully express their own opinion, what would other people do? In democracy, there are many different citizens, and they want to express their opinions freely. So if I'm not free, what about them? You know, a lot of people are not free, especially in
I was just going to say that if you're going to self-censor, and I understand why you would, then in a way they've achieved exactly what they wanted to, right?
Yes, to some extent, yes, definitely. And yeah, I would have to basically agree with you on that. Yeah, self-censorship is something they are targeting, and they do, end up
Yeah.
achieving quite, well, I guess.
Can you talk about your time in lockup and how you managed to keep your spirits up, what you told yourself, what you did with your time?
Uh, Basically, I did a lot of reading. I did some writing, and when I was in prison, I did some jogging as well. So that really sort of like gave me a lot of time to do self-reflection, and yeah, I wouldn't say it wasn't that bad. Yeah.
It wasn't that bad. I mean, that's quite extraordinary. Most people would be terrified of that experience. I think you have extraordinary courage.
I don't know if it is courage, but when you are in a difficult situation, I always believe you have a few choices, whether you make the best out of it or whether you become really scared and bitter, and I refuse to do that.
So are you saying that even today, I mean, you have acknowledged that self-censorship is one consequence, but are you saying that today you're not angry, you're not bitter?
Well, morally, I am really outraged. Morally, I'm really outraged that they could do something like this to me. They could do something like this to so many people in Manipur. Yes, but at the same time, personally, I feel that they don't like me and they are powerful. They are in the government and they want to do something, harass me, and they do it. I don't, uh, I don't take it personally. I think it is, it is their politics. It is not my politics, but it is their style of doing politics, and I'm not going to succumb to their, uh, their particular ideology.
What did your mother say to you when you met her after coming out?
She literally was just, crying a lot. She had hot tears. Uh, so I basically smiled and hugged her. I told her, "You don't have to cry anymore. I'm out." So
And is she now expecting you? We're seeing those pictures of you with your mom holding on to you for dear life. Is she now expecting you to be quiet? You know, like in Hindi, they say "muh mat kholo." Did she tell you now, please, Erencro, be quiet, put a zipper on your lips?
I think a lot of mothers would tend to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And my mom is not different. But at the same time, she understands that how I am. She understands also that by nature, I'm a very outspoken person.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let me ask you a last question. What is the larger message that the rest of the country should know about what's happening in Manipur? I have to say, even as a journalist, I was staggered when I was preparing to have this conversation with you. I didn't know that through this period, 13 other, people like yourself were facing sedition charges just for their comments on the COVID handling by the state government. I mean, that is just shocking.
Right. It is. It is, as people say, Manipur is becoming sort of like the hub for sedition charges and NSA charges. In fact, I
Yeah.
myself was slapped with sedition last year, and the court, immediately released me the next day. Um, so I'm sorry. What were you? What was the
So
question?
I'm
The
saying, what's the
larger.
larger, what should the people of India know about what's happening in Manipur? It's not an isolated instance what's happened with
Right.
you. That's the point I'm making.
Right. Right. I think the most important message is solidarity. I think. Uh, you know. The current chief minister himself was from the media fraternity, and so he has a lot of weight and network in Manipur. And to large extent, I would say that the media here in Manipur is largely controlled by incentives and disincentives, and so sometimes people are afraid to speak. Now, when the NSA charges were slapped against me and Kishore Chandra, the Manipur media wasn't paying as much attention. There was no moral outrage, no
Yeah.
nothing. But when
Yeah.
national media started paying attention, that people all over India and all over the world, when they started, expressing their outrage, that's when the local media also sort of like, in
Yeah.
some sense, fell in line. So I think solidarity is very important all across the country, and especially all across the world, in fact.
Yeah,
Especially for those who
I
are
think that's an important point, that the media needs to stand together, because today it's you, tomorrow it could be somebody else who, governments change, and but politicians and their urge to control media and activism don't.
right,
Well,
right,
Erencro, thank you. We're glad you're out, and we're glad your mom has you back. And we hope with
yeah,
time our institutions are strong enough that you don't have to censor what you post. That should
right,
not be the outcome of this, but of course we understand it. Thank you, and keep
right.
speaking and keep being yourself. Thank you so much. And to our
Thank
audience,
you.
thank you. Thanks for watching.
Thank
See you
you.
tomorrow. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.